For the past few years, we've all been obsessed with what AI knows, but that whole conversation, it's shifting, and it's shifting fast. We're moving away from AI as this fascinating novelty and toward AI as a really powerful tool for getting things done. So let's get into it and explore that exact shift, how AI is learning not just to think, but to do. So think about it. We've basically built these incredible digital minds. We've poured just about everything into them, books, articles, pretty much the entire internet. We've successfully given them the world's knowledge and taught them to process it all at a near human level. But that's just the start. The real game changer, the thing that's really going to shake things up, is happening right now. We're evolving AI from something that just talks to something that actually acts. And that's the leap we're talking about today, from a model to an agent. Let's break it down. So, to really get how AI can act, we first need to understand how it thinks. So, let's start at square one with the foundation for all modern AI, the brain of the whole operation, what we call the model. Okay, so what is a large language model, an LLM? Well, at its core, it's a super powerful predictive engine. Don't think of it as a conscious brain, really. It's more like a master of probability. Its whole job is to predict the next most likely word in a sentence based on all the patterns it's learned from its training. Yeah, and the name itself actually tells you pretty much everything you need to know. First, large, because we're talking a staggering, almost unimaginable amount of data. Language, obviously, because its whole expertise is understanding and generating text. And model, because it's not just a big filing cabinet of facts. Nope, it's a really complex statistical map of how language actually works. Here's maybe the best way to wrap your head around it. Think about the predictive text on your phone, right? An LLM is basically that exact same idea, but on a completely different scale. I mean, we're talking a billion times more powerful. Instead of just guessing your next word, it can predict entire essays, it can write code, or it can generate really creative stories. And this brings us to something that trips a lot of people up. When you hear a name like Gemini, you're not just hearing about one thing. You're actually hearing about two. There's the model, that's the powerful engine doing all the heavy lifting under the hood, and then there's the product. That's the app or website you actually type into. It's just like a car, right? You've got the engine under the hood, and then you have the dashboard and the steering wheel you actually use. Okay, so we've got this incredible brain, but what good is a brain without, well, hands and feet? A brain by itself is just potential, and that's where the real evolution happens. This is where we meet the next big thing, AI agents. For the longest time, our conversations with AI have been pretty simple. It's been this back and forth, you ask, it answers. It's totally reactive. An AI agent, it completely flips that script. It's proactive. You're not just asking it a question anymore, you're giving it a goal. And look, this isn't just a small upgrade. This is a massive, fundamental shift in how we interact with technology. So what's the recipe? How do you turn a model into an agent? Well, you basically need three key ingredients. First, you need the brain, the LLM we just talked about. Next, you've got to give it tools, the ability to actually connect with and use other software, like your calendar or a web browser. And last but not least, you give it autonomy. That's the freedom to plan, to reason, and to get the job done on its own. All right, let's make this super concrete. Let's use a real-world example, like booking a trip. With a regular chatbot, you might ask, hey, what are some good hotels in Tokyo? And you just get back a list. But with an AI agent, you give it the goal. Book me a hotel in Tokyo for my trip next month. And then, poof, the agent gets to work. It can check your calendar to see the exact dates, go out and search for hotels, compare all the prices, and then actually complete the booking for you, all by itself. See the difference? It's the difference between getting a to-do list and just getting it done. Okay, this is all great, but it brings up a huge question, right? How does an agent actually get access to your personal calendar or your company's super secret private database? How does it do that securely? Well, the answer is a really crucial piece of the puzzle. See, the problem we've always had is something called the context gap. An LLM, for all its smarts, is basically trapped inside a box. It only knows what it was trained on and what you type into that little chat window. It can't see your emails, your documents, your company's sales data, nothing. So what's the solution? It's something called the Model Context Protocol, or MCP for short. Think of it like a universal translator or an open standard that lets any AI model securely plug into any data source. It doesn't matter if it's your CRM, your email, your cloud drive, whatever. Honestly, the best way to think about it is to remember when USB-C came along. Remember that? Before, you had that drawer full of a million different cables for every single gadget. It was a total mess. Then USB-C came along and created one single universal plug for everything. That is exactly what MCP wants to do for the world of AI and data. Instead of building a custom connection for every single app, developers can just build one secure connection to MCP, and boom, any AI model can plug right in.
All right, let's zoom out and put all these pieces together. We've got the brain, that's the LLM, and now we have the nervous system. That's the protocol that connects it to everything. So what do you got when you put it all together? Let's look at the big picture.
So it all starts with the foundation, right? The large language model. That's the raw intelligence, the brilliant brain at the center of it all. Okay, now we plug that brain into the real world using MCP. So if the LLM is the brain, you can think of MCP as the nervous system. It's this whole secure network that lets the brain get information from and send commands to all your data and all your tools.
And what happens when you combine that powerful brain with that connected up nervous system? Well, you get the final result, the AI agent. This is the brain finally being put to work, sent on a mission with all the tools it needs right at its fingertips.
And here's the big takeaway, the thing to really remember. When you put all this together, you're not just looking at a smarter search box anymore. No way. You are looking at your new digital coworker. It's got the brain to understand, the nervous system to connect, and the mission to act. And this is a huge shift in how we think about work. For decades, we've had to use computers, right? We had to click every button, type every command, tell them exactly what to do step by step. We are now walking into a world where we can just delegate. We can give them the end goal, and they have the smarts to figure out all the steps to get there themselves. So, this all leaves us with one last big question. Now that you see how all the pieces fit together, the brain, the nervous system, the ability to actually do things, what's the very first task you delegate? What's that one annoying, time-sucking thing you would immediately hand off to your new digital coworker? It's definitely something we're all going to be thinking about.